Pony's voices fill the night, hearts warming, Eve is here once again. Come on, every creature, sing! La 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 la.
Well, that totally wasn't awkward. After the airing of School Days, the writers put a pin on the Student 6, which left the viewers rather annoyed and frustrated. It is true that they were involved in horseplay, but they didn't have a single line of dialogue. We did get non-compete clause and matter of principles where they did have dialogue, but the less I talk about those episodes, the better. Finally, after half a season, the Hearth Swarming Club comes back to focus on them directly, and it was worth the wait. While a Hearth Swarming tale is my favorite Hearth Swarming episode, this one comes to a close second. We learn the Student 6 a bit more, see some interactions with each other, and rewardingly gives us a heartwarming yet heartbreaking ending in which doesn't make sense now, but you'll understand what I mean when I get to it later. The episode's narrative is a compilation of stories that are shared from each of the students as they're all restrained in the school after a prank was committed. Each one of them gets brought forth throughout the episode and are questioned about the prank until one confesses. As this is going on, they tell each other their knowledge on their traditions. For the most part, they're very well comedically played, and some offer new character insight. In explaining so, I'll be spending the majority of this review going each of their shared stories and see how well they serve their culture and their character overall. And in addition, I'll be given a superlative award, just to spice things up. Hey, I had to think of something creative to add on this review instead of just being mechanical all the time. The first to start off with is Ocellus and what she was taught about Hearth Swarming Eve. Basically, they take the meaning and it's flipped upside down with just plain literal context.
Carols, 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 carols.
This got me laughing non-stop when I first watched it, and it's one of the few occasions where cringe comedy works very well in its favor. This is because of the circumstances of the changelings. They're still new with straightening out and getting to understand other cultures through trial and error. I also love the optimistic attitude they have as Ocellus states how much she's willing to learn about the pony culture.
We may not have done everything exactly the way you do, but we made our own traditions, and I can't wait to do it all again this year.
That does make me question on how they got so much punch to make a pool. Ugh, I can only imagine how much they'd have to bathe after diving into a pool of punch. Either or, I give this one the most hysterical. Following the next character to share their tradition is Yona's holiday.
Our holiday, much better, is called Snelldorffest.
Snelldorffest? Snellerfest? Hang on, let me look this up. Snelldorffest? What the hell is a Snelder? Anyways, what Yona brings forth is that the yaks involve building and smashing and building and smashing. At least the episode is aware of it according to what Gallus says. But along with that, they have their own carol. Loosely.
Yak song, not very long, sing again.
Yeah, sorry DHX, but Ocellus' carol singing was much funnier. This does address some development for Yona as she reveals the origins of her hair braids. This does seem nice for a family ritual. The most that I can get from this is that the yaks have pride and would like to show off their strength. This was addressed from the previous episodes being party pooped and not asking for trouble. So that doesn't seem anything new and just feels rather repetitive. Oh no, that's too mean. I want to be optimistic here to all these students. I can see these being funny for some people as the repetitive nature plays around with the soft moments it tends to break. But ultimately it didn't work well for me. To be fair, it is fun to break things down and destruction can be therapeutic at times as it relieves stress. So I give this one the most cathartic. So Smolder explains her tradition with the dragons, the Feast of Fire.
Every dragon gets together and tells stories. The best one wins a pile of gemstones.
And what was the best story that Smolder shares? A dream come true. It's the formula of a homeless character who is taken into hospitality, but with a twist that ends in tears. Literally. I was actually annoyed rather than appreciating the twist, as it was meant to play with your expectations on the familiar formula. But this is particularly because it once again reflects on how cruel dragons are, which compared to many other previous episodes, hasn't brought out much. Yes, I am aware of the potential of what Ember can bring forth, especially since Smolder is a student, but the labeling of them as cruel creatures is nothing more than irritating and one-dimensional. But looking at this again, it had me thinking, is this kind of story why dragons always tend to have such brutality? Do they fear in having their kindness be taken advantage of? Given how valuable the Spectre is and what Starlight originally presented in the Cutie map, using her kindness to take manipulative advantage, that doesn't sound too far off. Or it's just there for laughs and I'm looking into this way too much. Yeah, and I'm sure the comments will probably say that too. To its credit, I now appreciate the attempt to add a twist to the homeless character narrative. That and Smolder's taste in sad endings can relate to those who are fans of movies like Braveheart. So I give this one most twisted. Next up is when Sandbar shares his story.
I have the best holiday story ever. It's called The Day My Hearth-Warming Doll Almost Fell into the Fire.
Oh yes, the times when you almost lost something you loved. Kids told these stories a lot when I was a kid. But comparing that to what others have shared, how is this episode gonna make this work? That is the most hilarious expression Sandbar's ever made! Okay, I will admit, that was cleverly executed. Kudos to that one. And the fact that the episode is fully aware of how ridiculous it is by having Smolder address it, that just puts the cherry on top. This doesn't level up with Ocellus' Hearthswarming, as I still find it hysterically natural, but this one is definitely the most clever. So, after that unexpected turn of events, Silverstream shares her holiday, the 3 days of freedom celebration. Compared to all the other ones, this one shares a different art style while explaining the events. That is definitely a nice breath of fresh air, and it also is adorably fitting. Seeing that the hippogriffs had to conceal themselves, this kind of holiday would make sense to them, as it would be fun and exciting for an experience. Though having Queen Novo hand out the gifts has to be quite cost effective. I know I shouldn't be questioning it, but what does that say if she needs to know what everyone there wants? Aside from having a big budget, it must be a huge task to take the Santa role on top of being a leader. Then again, I could be overthinking this. Nonetheless, I really love this one. It's sweet, it's beautiful, it's rightfully celebratory, and overall, the most adorable. So finally, the last tradition we learn is Gallus's, the Blue Moon Festival. This one was rightfully saved for last, as Gallus finally confesses that he was the one responsible for the mess. This was all at the expense of seeing the rest of the students argue at each other to where the guilt weighs in too hard and has to confess. Thus, we learn about his holiday, and it's that Gallus has nothing to look forward to, nothing to be grateful about, and overall doesn't want to be alone. While it is messed up that he sabotaged the tree and held the rest of his friends off, I felt more sorry for him than angry at him, and implying that you should be counting your blessings. Having that message would normally need to acquire a cynical nature for anyone who couldn't have it any better. But what makes this work here is that because of the guilt that weighs in on his shoulders, he easily relates to those who are eager and desperate. There are some people who will do anything to prevent themselves from facing circumstances that they don't want to deal with, and it's hard for them. After Twilight and Dash hear Gallus' confession, the rest of the students decide to accompany him and stay for the holidays. Unfortunately, this is an issue that I did have with this episode, and it is regarding Twilight's overall punishment.
What are we gonna do exactly? The guilty party won't be going home over Hearthswarming break. She or he will stay here for some one-on-one friendship lessons. But what if none of us confesses? Then, I guess there's no holidays for any creature. You'll all stay over the break.
That is extreme. Hell, some might find that to be a crucial violation. I'm sure I'm going to get corrected for saying that, but it's one thing to punish one's actions, and it's infuriating to have your own Christmas decorations get ruined. But forcing one or more kids to stay over the entire holiday season is unacceptable, especially since parents would not be happy to hear that their own kid is being restrained away from spending their quality time with their family. If you want to set up a proper punishment, just let them stay over the period of cleaning up the mess, not the whole holiday break. Maybe a bit of lecture on top of that if one of them confessed. In that particular case, the parents would know and understand better in their circumstance. Now, this doesn't ruin the episode, mind you, because having them stay and clean up the mess in general is perfectly natural, as it was also setting up the motives for each of the students to share. I just think that the punishment that Twilight was giving could have been written better. Putting that aside, I really love this episode. This is pretty much the equivalent of the Cutie Mark Chronicles for the students as we get to know and spend time with them more. I love how they bounce off each other so wonderfully. Also, they're all so adorable that I just want to hug them. They're funny, they're charming, and I love them even more than when I first saw them in school days. And obviously Gallus' backstory hits a really hard note. To anyone who's had it rough in their lives like Gallus, I'm sorry. I can't give you the best answers, but the most that I can say is, never give up. Never let the troubled times wear you down. But don't take any desperate measures either, because that won't help you. There is a way out. Some way, somehow. Do whatever it takes, and I wish you the best of luck on that. Until next time, this is GoldenFox, and enjoy your holidays.